The Praetors of the Phoenix have bonds to their brother-in-arms stronger than any other warriors in the whole Imperium. As a show of solidarity before battle, their brothers will mark their armour with a unique symbol that will signify their unity and to show that the brotherhood of the chapter comes before anything else. Having this bond means that the Praetors of the Phoenix fight in complete unison. No commands are needed or given, as they all work as a collective to conquer their enemies without any need for discussion. The warriors will work towards the chapter's common goals without any disputes, knowing that they are protecting their brotherhood at all costs. Hello and welcome to this week's podcast. You're listening to Croydon, and I'm going to take you through my Primaris army, which is the Praetors of the Phoenix. So some of you may know, but this is actually the first ever army for Warhammer that I did back in 2017. This was a starting out simple army that I chose, which was the Space Marines, just to kind of get involved in the hobby itself and to kind of not complicate things so early on. So I started out with the Space Marines, and I had some models from the Dark Imperium box, the half of the box which was the Space Marines to start out with, and from that I decided upon a colour scheme that I wanted to work with. I wasn't aware of the different chapters that you can get in 40k at the time. We are kind of doing 30k at the moment, but at that time when I started out we were doing 40k. So like I said, I wasn't really aware of the different chapters that you can get of Space Marines and, different armies that you can get in 40k as well. So I started out kind of taking a framework of the Ultramarines, and I know I didn't kind of go for the typical blue colour of the Ultramarines, but I took their initial kind of standpoint and just varied it with the colour. So I went for a deep purple, purely just because that was my kind of favourite colour at the time, and I didn't know that there was a chapter, namely the Emperor's Children, that was their colour scheme essentially. Knowing what I know now, I do like the Emperor's Children models, and that is something that I wanted to go into. It's just finding the right sort of purple to differentiate between these Primaris and the Emperor's Children. So hopefully that's something that I can come back to later in my hobby journey once I've gotten through the backlog that I've got and the Orcs, which is the new exciting project that I'm going to be working on. So taking back to the beginning of the hobby and the start of when I actually got the Space Marines. So like I said, it was a purple colour that I went for. I had never built or painted a large army, namely more than one model. I had a kind of a test of a model with Smorgonite once, a couple of months before I actually got the Primaris, where we sat down and he kind of took me through the stages of painting one up, but I hadn't built any, so that was the kind of first obstacle that I needed to go through when I got these set of models in 2017. So I built them up, which was quite a fun experience, and once I built them all up, it was deciding upon what sort of colour scheme I wanted. So went for the purple and ended up using the Nagaroth Knight, which is deep purple. I then shaded it slightly, but the kind of dark purple was still prominent on the models. You can actually see photos of some of my models, which are on the Strategic Painting website as well as the Instagram pages. So yeah, I had my colours in tow and I built and painted a standard base layer and edge highlight, and essentially that was what I kind of left it at. I wasn't the best at painting. It didn't look too messy, but I didn't really want to experiment too much because I was a beginner painter and I didn't want to mess up the kind of hard work and effort that I'd already put into the kind of base work of all of those models. It wasn't until a couple of months later where I had a lot of free time on my hands because I was having a break between uni and my third year of uni, and I had sort of the summer holidays, as you may say, to kind of sit down and look at where I wanted to take the models and if I wanted to kind of adapt them to make them any better or keep them as they are. And with all that free time, I was able to kind of experiment on them and make them different, make them more unique, more individualised, and that was something that I really, really enjoyed doing. Like I said, I had all that spare time, so to me I was filling it with something that was really fun and entertaining, and the results came out more than, better than I expected. So I'll kind of take you through what models that I have. So I've got some intercessors. I believe I've got two squads of 10 of those, so I've got 20 in total. I've got some Hellblasters, which I believe I have another 20 of those. I do prefer these in game when I was playing 40k, as I really like the rapid fire element, and for somebody that doesn't particularly like close combat, the shooting phase and the rapid fire element definitely worked in my favour. So that's sort of for the troops. I do have some ancients. I've got 2 banners, which I'll talk about in a bit more detail in a minute, because those are 2 of the models that I really do like the look of and I am quite proud of. So we'll go back to that in a second. So I then have a few hero characters, which again I've done something unique on their cloaks, which I'll come back to and kind of talk you through those as well. I have some lieutenants, a librarian, and I have a dreadnought, which was something that I wasn't used to be fair. I think I got that a bit later on. It's not part of the Dark Imperium box, so that was an additional thing that I ended up getting down the line, as well as a flyer. I can't remember the specific name of the flyer that I've got, but that is yet to be finished, so that's hasn't been featured yet on any of the pages. So really that's all that I have. It's not a massive army, but that was quite a big army for a beginner who at the time hadn't really had any models, to be fair, and it was a playable army. I had enough models with me and enough points to be able to play against Morganite and other members of the team, as well as other people in general. So that was really where it was. So in terms of where my ideas came from for some of the painting on the models, I tell you now, I have absolutely no idea. It just came to me with sort of an epiphany. So the ancients I'll talk about first, because I think those are the ones that I'm most excited about. So as I said, you can see them on the Strategic Painting website. So one of them, I believe I actually ended up changing it and probably painting over it a couple of times, but one of them I decided to go with a sort of earth theme in the middle. With these sort of models, they're blank in the middle, so it allows for whatever design you want. It allows you to be creative with them. So I took that and I did. So in the middle, I kind of made a little earth symbol as best as I could, and I kind of made it look as bannery as I can. And then on the other one, I ended up doing kind of the polar opposite and made it sort of look a little bit like fire-ish. So you've got some oranges and red yellows on there to kind of so they're kind of opposite and balanced within the army. So there is something that I was really happy with, and obviously now if I went back to do them, I'll probably do the paintwork a lot better, but at the time I was really impressed with myself with those. In terms of other models that I've done that have something slightly different to them, is probably the hero characters. So one of the cloaks I did a galaxy design. So based it with a very light purple and splattered on various different colours, namely some blues and pinks and bits like that to make it look like a galaxy. It turned out quite well, actually. I mean, if I went back now, I'd probably be able to hone in on the technique and make it a little bit better, but it is still good, and it does look it doesn't look messy, so it's certainly something I'd be comfortable having on the tabletop. And then the other hero character that I did was a blood splattered cape. I think that was one of the first models that I actually did to modify it and make it different, and I spent a lot of time on it, more than probably is needed, but I base coated. I think the hardest part of it actually was base coating it white, because anybody that uses white knows that you have to layer up like crazy in order for it to look decent. So and at the time, it's worth mentioning, at the time I only had it's one of those starter kits of the paints with the small paints, and you had like a red, a yellow in it, a white, and a black. So all of my colours on my Primaris models was pretty much handmade colours. I mixed them all, so I would not be able to replicate them, that's the only problem, but I was happy enough that each of my models looked different where I wanted to change it, that I actually wouldn't need to replicate that and kind of try and get the same colours anyway. So yeah, so in terms of the blood splattered one, we'll just go back to that. I ended up base coating that white a couple of times until it was solid enough that there wasn't any gaps, and then I simply got some red paint, darkened it up slightly so it looked a bit more blood and it didn't look too shiny, and then I splattered it all over the back of the cape and basically gave it the blood splatter effect, as if he's gone into battle and he's won. So that's what I went for. I do have some work to do on some of the models, which is mainly I've got to finish the Dreadnought and the Flyer. It's just with those, I think it's a bit different because I want them to look a bit unique, but I don't want to spoil it at the same time by putting designs on it that may not necessarily fit. So I just need to put some thought into those before I finish those. And one last cool feature actually on the painter's side of things with the models is that each of the troops, I believe I put them on the Hellblasters and the Intercessors, have a symbol. So in the beginning of this podcast, when I went through the kind of overview of the army that me and Smorganite put together, it did mention that they had kind of a unified symbol between the brothers to show unison. So that was another addition that I did because I made some of the other characters different, but I hadn't done anything different to the troops. So I decided to kind of add a little something to them, and they've all got a very random symbol on each of their armour plates. I'm sure I did it all on one side, but I can't remember if it's the right or left, but it's on all of them anyway, and they all have an individualised symbol, but it just gives them all that protection and that brotherhood when they're on the battlefield, protecting themselves and protecting their fellow brothers. So that's really where I was at with the colours of them, and where I got to with those as well. So I haven't been doing them for that long, to be honest with you. They are a 40k army, and at the moment we aren't really focusing on 40k. We're doing heresy, so some of the models legally I actually can't take in 30k. So I've kept this purely as a 40k army. Should we go back to play 40k games, I then have that. I would like to expand it if we're going to be playing some more games. I think at the moment we're quite happy where we are playing Horus Heresy. I've just mixed the two words up there, just, to make things a lot quicker. But I definitely want to focus on some of the other armies that I'm doing for the Horus Heresy side. So this is something that I will come back to in the future to make a bit bigger, maybe get some bikes, some tanks, and just to get some more kind of heavy support in the army, which would be better. So yeah, not been doing it for too long, but I think one of my favourite things about the army is the fact that it was the first army that I did, and it actually allowed me to be a bit more creative and show this side that I wasn't aware that I had in terms of painting, and kind of open a door for what I could do with other armies in my hobby, and it will only go up, is what I was thinking as well. So that's always a positive. If we talk about the gaming side, we haven't really played a lot of games. I haven't got a lot of points, but as I said, it's enough points to be able to play a small game with people, and we haven't really played a lot of games. I haven't won any of the games, purely because I was very new to the gaming when I started out with this army. I played a couple of games and I just couldn't get my head around 40k in general. I found it quite difficult just kind of learning all the rules and in-game and specific to my army. So with that, I wasn't very good at it, so I didn't win any games, to be honest. But I was just happy playing the games and seeing my cool models that I painted on the tabletop. So in terms of where I want to see this army going, like I said, I want to adapt and add to it further down the line. It's not something that I'm going to be doing now, but it's something that I would certainly want to come back to in the future and add some more models to. More troops for definite, so I can obviously give them some more variety and make everything a bit more different. But I do want some heavy support, so some tanks, bikes, more vehicles, maybe a Contemptor Dreadnought as well, and some some Land Raiders or things like that. So that is pretty much it. That's about 17 minutes of me rambling on about my Primaris, but it's been nice to kind of divulge into that in more specifics and kind of touch base on where I started, and hopefully I look forward to getting back to that soon. So thank you for listening, and I'll speak to you all soon. Bye bye.